Hey everyone, my name's Rachel and today is one of those videos where I am going to try and sort out my face with some makeup whilst having a chat with you guys about some things I've been thinking about. And this week I thought it made sense that I talked to you a little bit about the UK general election. There's like loads of campaigning and stuff going on for it at the minute. I don't really know too much about politics. It's not like a big interest of mine. Like my brother's really into it and my dad's quite into it. But I'm kind of like a little bit take it or leave it most of the time. I don't really understand the specifics of a lot of policies or a lot of like laws, and the whole like tax and finance stuff just kind of makes me a little confused. But I do have my opinions. You know, when there's something like an election or vote coming up where I do have a chance to vote, I try and at least get a little bit informed and come to my own kind of decisions and conclusions about what I'm voting for. I'm gonna get started on my face right now and then just kind of like talk you through some of my thoughts on this election. I love this so much. I washed all my brushes yesterday, so this is like new, clean, love clean brushes. So the two big kind of like candidates who could become Prime Minister at the minute are Theresa May for the Conservative Party and Jeremy Corbyn for Labour, if you don't know. Now I didn't really know much about these candidates before this debate. I don't really know much about their background or what they've done in the past. I didn't even really know much about their kind of like personal policies and ideas and that sort of thing. In the last general election we had, I didn't really like either of the kind of big main candidates for Conservatives or Labour. There's David Cameron, who's just ugh. And one of the Miliband's for Labour, I think it was. I didn't really like either of them, so I based my vote purely off the local candidates and who I liked there, and I voted for Green because I really liked the Green candidate in Oxford, where I was living at the time. They didn't win, unfortunately. They came second to Labour, but I didn't mind. I didn't feel like it was a wasted vote or anything because, like I say, they did come second, so. This year I'd heard a big mix of things about both Corbyn and May. A lot of them bad about both of them, but that's kind of to be expected with political candidates, I think, now. The biggest thing I'm kind of like feeling so far, which might sound a little bit strange, but it's just kind of like the way things have sort of come across. Like, May hasn't been she's like refusing to have a kind of head-to-head debate with Corbyn or any of the other party leaders, and just the fact that she even kind of called this general election at all when she didn't really have to kind of make me question, does she even want to be Prime Minister at this point, or is she just kind of like looking for a way out without having to just quit? Do you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't seem like she's trying very hard. She doesn't really seem very passionate about anything she talks about. Plus, you know, the fact that she won't have these debates and stuff, like, it kind of makes me sort of trust her ability to kind of like negotiate or debate or make any kind of tough decisions, because whoever's Prime Minister is going to be kind of like negotiating with like other political leaders, especially about the really tough stuff like the whole Brexit negotiations and stuff. And I'm pretty sure neither May or Corbyn actually voted for Brexit in the first place, which is good because I voted against it and I think it's a silly idea. But whoever's left kind of is going to have to make sort of the best of a bad situation, and it's going to be really tough, I think. So we want someone there negotiating and, you know, trying to come up with the best deal possible, and I'm not sure, like, if May can't even debate the Labour Party leader, how is she supposed to do anything more difficult than that? Do you know what I mean? She just comes across as kind of like a bit scared or weak. That said, last night there was not even a debate, but it was just like kind of Corbyn and May being questioned by like the public and Jeremy Paxman and stuff like that. And one of the things I actually found was really harsh on Theresa May. Jeremy Paxman, at one point, he kept going on and on at May about her voting against Brexit and stuff, and she was saying how, like, you know, she'd have to like make these negotiations and stuff if she stays Prime Minister. And it was really bizarre because he just kept going on and on at her about, oh, so have you changed your mind, have you changed your mind, have you changed your mind? And he's going on, and she was all like, well, it doesn't really matter what I think because the British public voted for it, and now I have to kind of make the best of this situation and try and make the best outcome possible, which I kind of like completely sort of stood behind her saying, if that makes sense. and that's probably the only time I'll ever agree with a Conservative politician. But I did agree with her, and I thought Paxman was being a little bit harsh. But then he pulled the exact same thing on Corbyn as well. Like, there were a bunch of different things. Like, he was going through the Labour manifesto and talking about different things and saying like, oh, but this is too Corbyn. He was saying like, oh, so we know you support this, or you don't support this, or you want this. Why is it not in the Labour manifesto? And Corbyn was like, well, at the Labour Party conference, we, you know, took votes and decided and discussed these things, and we put together a manifesto which was what the majority of the party wanted. And Paxman was just like, oh, but they're not your ideas, and kind of pushing him, and kind of almost like he was mocking him for the manifesto not being just purely Corbyn's ideas, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, because surely that's a sign of a good leader, that he's willing to listen to the majority and not just push his own personal agenda. And therefore, if he is Prime Minister, he'll probably do what's best for the country and what the people want and what the majority of other politicians want and things like that, rather than just what he wants. Like, I kind of get the sense from Corbyn, I don't know if I'm right or not, it's just the sense that I get. I kind of get the sense that he would be the kind of Prime Minister who would actually want to do what's best for the UK and not just his own career. In terms of like the actual policies of the parties and stuff, I honestly can't say I know enough to kind of offer anything new to the table or like give any kind of like detailed critique, but from the research I have done and the things that I've read and watched and heard and things, I do have kind of like a few opinions. One of the things I really appreciate about Labour's manifesto is their willingness to put more money into education and kind of really start to even the playing field a bit, so you don't just need money to have a good education, which I think is a really important thing. You know, like one of the big things they want to do is bring back EMA for sixth form and college students. I think that's really important, because when I was at sixth form I had EMA and it was only £30 a week, but the students who are coming from a similar financial background to what I did, something like EMA can be really useful for taking a little bit of financial strain off their family. And making sure they stay in education, because if I hadn't had EMA, I'm not sure what I would have done, to be honest. I think that's why a lot of the time people do leave school at 16, because there is a lot of pressure to be earning money or bringing in money, and if you're just in school you're not really contributing anything. Like for me, getting my EMA plus having 2 part-time jobs while I was studying, that was what enabled me to do really well in my A-levels. And concentrate on my education a lot, and then go on to uni and end up in the place where I am today. I don't think the Conservative Party appreciate the impact that something like EMA or university maintenance grants or things like that, how much impact they have on low-income students. I think the Labour Party kind of considers that sort of stuff more, and I really appreciate that about them. And similarly, they just seem to have a better grasp of what like lower income families need, and they can offer kind of like, you know, they want to offer a more reasonable minimum wage and things like that. One of the other things I got from kind of reading sort of overviews of their manifestos and stuff was that Labour seem a lot less anti-immigration than the Conservatives do. So the Conservatives seem to be very focused on like numbers and like, we're gonna decrease the immigration numbers this much. And like the numbers are okay, but you can't forget that behind all those numbers are people, both on the sides of the illegal immigrants and the UK nationals. There are people behind there. I think Labour are a lot more aware of things like the skill set that well-educated or well-trained legal immigrants can bring to the UK, and how they can actually be a really, really fantastic source. They can really help our businesses, they can really help our economy. And I honestly have no problem with like legal immigration and things like that. I think it's a fantastic thing. Labour have also kind of like pushed forward ideas of things like renationalising rail services and Royal Mail and stuff like that, and I'm really in support of that. I think it's great. In terms of things like the NHS, I'm not going to claim I know too much about it in detail because I don't, but I do know that it's kind of something that is quite important to me. And I think it's a really, really great thing that we have. Like I say, I don't really know enough to offer any real insight. There's probably a lot more people who could do that better. But from what I've read, I think Labour do have a slightly better approach than the Conservatives, but I'm willing to be proven wrong there. In terms of environmental issues and environmental policy, I'm obviously very keen on the Green Party's ideas and I really like a lot of what they suggest. The Conservative Manifesto doesn't really talk a lot about environmental issues, and that kind of makes me a bit sad. Like, they do talk about like reaching goals to reduce carbon emissions, but there's nothing really new or innovative or all that useful there. Labour's still, it's not brilliant, but it's a lot better than what the Conservatives are offering. They talk a lot about sort of clean air initiatives and reducing air pollution. They talk a lot about supporting renewable energy projects, and they want to ban fracking as well. So all of that stuff I'm really behind, and I really like that they included that. Then you get on to tax issues and stuff, and this is where things start to get quite complicated and I start to feel a little bit lost because I don't really understand enough about things. I do know that the Conservatives are proposing that they want to increase personal allowance to £12,500 a year, which I think is quite good, it's okay, but I don't think they're doing enough to kind of like help reduce the gap between the richest and poorest families. Labour, I think, on the other hand, are doing a lot more. They're suggesting no rises in income tax for anyone earning under £80,000 a year, which I think is really, really good, because that's going to help out the low-income families, but they can still get more money by taxing the richer people who they can afford it more, I'll be honest. It is difficult because, like, I feel like sometimes people will just talk about things very generally and say that, you know, Conservatives are just out for the richer people and Labour are just out for the, like, poorer and working class families and stuff. And I don't think that's true, to be honest, because I think Labour are just kind of more in support of doing whatever's fair for the majority. And I think that's very true of Jeremy Corbyn in particular. I kind of like that he's willing to speak for the majority, even if it goes against his own personal values. He feels like a politician who actually wants to make a difference to the UK and not just his career. I also feel, and this is going to sound really silly, but now that like someone like Donald Trump's president, I feel like the UK needs someone who's gonna be willing to stand up to someone like him and not just let him walk all over us, to be honest, and I'm not sure Theresa May could do that. Whereas Jeremy Corbyn, I reckon he would definitely stand up to Trump and just like tell him when he's being an idiot and not take any of his crap. Jeremy Corbyn seems like, I might be wrong, but he seems like the kind of person who's more willing to kind of like just stand up for what he thinks is right and not really care about what anyone thinks of him, you know? But yeah, they're just my opinions, and you might disagree with me. If you do, let me know in the comments what you think and who you'll be voting for. Let me know what you thought about the kind of question thing on TV last night, if you watched it. But for now, I'm definitely in support of Jeremy Corbyn. I thought he performed really, really well last night. And came across really well. But this might have been quite a long video, so if you've made it through this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.